I'm Joseph Kopser, and welcome back to another episode of Catalyst Talks. I'm thrilled today to have a longtime friend and colleague, Alexis Davis. Thank you for joining us,
Hello.
Alexis. How are
Thank
you
you for
doing
having
today?
me. I'm doing well. It's always a great day in Austin, so can't complain.
Yes, it was 91 degrees, at least almost got to 91. In fact, I went out at lunchtime to get my vitamin D. In fact, while you're staying healthy during COVID, what are some of the tips or techniques for either physical or mental health that you're using?
I'm definitely trying to take daily walks because, I'm always on the computer, social media manager. So 2 phones, computer, screen. So sometimes I just need a break. So I just need to go walk around the neighborhood.
Excellent. Well, we're going to keep you on screen for 20, 30 minutes. To remind listeners or viewers, this is live. Right now, we're live on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Feel free to go in the comments section and ask any questions that you might have for Alexis, because today what we're going to talk about is social media and the technology that can best improve your brand recognition. Alexis, I've seen you in your arc of 10 years now almost, and your development as a social media guru. You've gone from being a practitioner to being a consultant, a coach, and now you're a CEO in your trade with the Content Plug. So kind of give folks a brief history of how you got to now, and then we're going to really dive deep into what you're doing.
So as you mentioned, I've always been interested in social media since college, after college, internships, jobs, and I really started getting a lot of people who just reach out to me and say, hey, can you manage my social media? Can you, post for me on Facebook and Instagram, because I simply don't like to do it, or I do not have the time to do it. And so from there, I started collecting clients, I guess you'll say. I started adding clients to my roster, and I did all of this while I still had a 9-to-5. And it's still so wild to me that I did that with a job.
And I just want to highlight that idea of the side hustle. That is commonplace today. So for employers that are watching, I would say you want to encourage your teammates to have a side hustle, because if people are motivated and stay captured with the mission that you're doing by day, as well as allowing them to be creative at night, nothing's better. So keep going. So you got this side hustle. You're helping other people.
And I actually wanted to mention that I loved having the Content Plug as my side hustle, because there were some things that I was doing in my 9-to-5 and the 2 jobs that I had while I had the Content Plug on the side. And I wasn't able to really play around with some of the other items. I wasn't really able to go live on Instagram or do some of the other cool things that were happening on the other platforms. And so this way I was able to still, keep up with different trends and just knowing really what's going on, even though I wasn't doing those things in my 9-to-5. And then some things I was able to bring from my side hustle to my job. So definitely a win-win there.
Yeah. So for people that don't understand social media, or even for businesses that are thinking of getting into it, they think they can hire a budget and then just sprinkle some social media on their company, and then that's all they have to do. You know clearly, and you've taught me this for years, that's not how it works. So how does good messaging and brand awareness work? What are some tips you can recommend?
So you should definitely try to plan ahead as much as possible when it comes to creating social media content, because consumers now are smarter than ever. They can tell when you just took something and just threw it up. You really want to make sure that you're planning ahead and that you are really, discussing and talking about the different things that are happening at the moment. I think that's like the number one thing. And then, of course, making sure that you're staying consistent. So if you want to post on social media 3 times a week, that's really what I tell people whenever I consult. You want to post on Instagram, 3 times a week, do that. If you can handle posting every day, do that. But don't feel like you have to post every single day, because that's how you end up
desperate
posting.
Feeling that you're looking around for a photograph or looking around for a quote.
You don't have to do that. Exactly. So just plan it out ahead of time. If you can do your 3 posts a week, do that. If you can do more, do that. Just stick to, a consistent plan.
Yeah. So talk about this idea of, are you posting for your current customers? Are you posting to add customers? Are you posting for different genres, different groups? How do you have folks and your customers think about social media and how they target?
I definitely think it depends on your goals and what you're really trying to achieve. So I feel like I will post different content if I am taking on new clients, if I am adding new clients to my roster. Otherwise, I'm definitely, posting different tips and tricks and just making sure that people are keeping me top of mind. That's where, the brand awareness and the brand recognition really kicks in. But, I definitely make sure that I'm always posting something that is helpful. I definitely try to educate people, entertain them, or inform them. Those are the 3 buckets I always try to stay
Educate,
in.
entertain, and
Mhm.
inform.
Yep.
Okay. Does
Those are the
one
3.
post have to be all 3, or can you split those up?
You can definitely split them up.
Okay.
Definitely split them up, but definitely don't just post just to post. I always try to make sure I'm filling, one of those buckets whenever I post.
Got it. Educate, entertain, inform. Is that what you said? The
Yep.
3?
Mhm.
Okay. And by the way, thanks again to Nora Anderson,
Mhm.
part of the Gray Line team that's behind the scenes making all of this not only captured, but sharing it. So if you have any questions, by all means, drop them in the comment section.
Yes,
So let's
thank you,
talk
Nora.
about platform by platform, the pros and
Mhm.
cons, perhaps, or the different audiences that live there. Let's start with your favorite. I believe you think Instagram perhaps is the favorite.
Yes, I love Instagram, even though it's driving me crazy right now. So I love Instagram because I feel like every time I go up there, I see something new, obviously with the algorithm. But I like how Instagram keeps us on our toes. There's always something new, so we keep coming back to it. However, whenever they do roll out these new features, it kind of makes other features like not as important. So I know a lot of people have probably noticed that their Instagram engagement has gone down, and it's because of Reels. Now everyone is, dancing and, lip syncing and all that stuff on Reels. So it kind of makes it challenging, but no 2 days are the same on Instagram. So I like that.
So before we get into the other platforms, let's
Mhm.
stick with Instagram for a minute and address the idea of, do business leaders, do members of teams need to have different personas on different platforms? Like, okay, Facebook is more my family, Instagram is more my puppy, but LinkedIn is where business gets done. What do
Mhm.
you say to people that have different personas? Is that good or bad?
I definitely think it's good, but you also should pay attention to where your audience is. So a lot of people think, okay, my audience on Instagram is younger. I have, teens and tweens, millennials. But when you go into your analytics, you may actually have an older audience on Instagram. You may actually have a younger audience on LinkedIn. You really need to go into your analytics and see who you are speaking to. Because a lot of times whenever I do speak to clients in consulting sessions, that's what they think. They think, okay, this audience is here, this audience is there, but it's probably flipped, or it could be the same audience. So tailor your content that way.
That's great advice.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's Instagram
Mhm.
and the power of analytics, no matter what
Yes.
platform you're on. What other platform? Let's talk about Facebook. What are
Mhm.
folks doing right or wrong on Facebook?
Facebook drives me up the wall. And it's funny because obviously Instagram is owned by Facebook, but Facebook is definitely, it's becoming more pay to play. Obviously, organic content is having a harder time, to go further on Facebook. But Facebook right now, I think is really focused on video. So live video like this. And then of course, video that you are uploading. They want to keep everyone on the platform as much as possible. So if you can, use live video, upload video, use stories, do all of that. And that's actually a tip for every platform. Whenever a platform rolls something out, use it.
It's funny you mentioned keeping people in the platform.
Yeah.
I've had a couple of different videos talking about the pros and cons of LinkedIn and how to better
Right.
use LinkedIn. In fact, surprisingly, Nora and I found out recently that that's one of the videos we produced recently on Catalyst
Mhm.
Talks that people really wanted to learn is, how does LinkedIn work that algorithm? So
Mhm.
you taught me, in fact, that LinkedIn likes to stay inside LinkedIn, and therefore they
Right.
punish external links like
Mhm.
YouTube. So tell us a little bit more about LinkedIn and how you recommend small business or businesses use it.
I would definitely say that small businesses or businesses of any size should definitely be on LinkedIn because your customers are probably there. They're professionals. They are on LinkedIn on their personal profile. So go onto your LinkedIn page, and every business that's watching should have a LinkedIn page that's obviously different from your LinkedIn profile. And make sure that you're posting content for your audience on LinkedIn. Post case studies, post testimonials, go live if you have the LinkedIn live ability to do. So definitely make sure that you are just, putting all the content that your audience wants to see on LinkedIn, because the professional audience is definitely getting on LinkedIn every single day. I go on LinkedIn a lot, like way more than I used to whenever I was just working a 9 to 5.
Yep. No, great point. It's
Mhm.
no longer a resume. It really is a place to be able
Right.
to interact with customers, potential
Mhm.
partners, and new opportunities.
Mhm.
So for the folks that are watching us live, if you have a question
Mhm.
for Alexis or myself, by all means, drop it in. So
Mhm.
let's talk about some of the other platforms. Let's talk about TikTok. More and
Oh
more
gosh.
businesses are starting to use TikTok. What
Mhm.
was specifically for one particular age group has now
Mhm.
exploded. What are
Good
your advice for
example.
businesses when it comes to TikTok?
I think TikTok, I mean, definitely don't try to force it. I think there are some brands out there who
Wait
are
a
just
minute.
trying to
You
figure
don't
out.
think that I could force it to be cool, Alexis?
Oh man, I mean, TikTok is interesting and you just never really know what's going to take off. I mean, we just saw that video that went viral and I can't think of the gentleman's name who was skateboarding
With
with the
ocean
music
spray.
with Ocean Spray. I mean, like who knew that that would take off and would be as big as it is? So I think with a lot of content, especially on TikTok, you can create something and you're like, oh, this is going to be a hit, and then it's not. And then the random thing you post is what actually makes you go viral. But the interesting thing with TikTok is how easy it is to download content from TikTok and put on other platforms. So I learned about TikTok on Twitter because everyone was going on TikTok, downloading the videos, putting them on Twitter. And then I was like, what is this app? So I think that's definitely a unique piece of the platform. Obviously, much different than YouTube or even Snapchat, which is very private. But I would definitely just go on TikTok and have fun. It's definitely not as serious of a platform as Instagram or as LinkedIn, of course.
Well, I don't know if I've ever considered Instagram to be that serious of a platform, but I guess relatively speaking, you're right.
Mhm. I
So
mean, serious is like, you have to be super polished. Like TikTok, you don't have to be as polished on the platform. It's kind of just whatever goes, goes. But on Instagram, people really want, their best foot forward. They want the best photo. They want the filters and all of that.
yeah.
So,
Well, one of the best is Erica Brennis, who you and I
yes.
both know. She's on Instagram quite a bit. In fact, I got to figure out her schedule because right
Right.
before you and I went live, she went live on Instagram. So we
I
have to
saw.
deconflict that. Let's talk about Twitter. How are
Yeah.
people using Twitter and what should they be doing better or avoid?
Well, Twitter is kind of the Wild West right now. Obviously, it is an election season, so there's a lot going on Twitter. But I definitely think Twitter is great for conversations. Obviously, I feel like that's where news breaks. News moves super quickly on Twitter. I would definitely try to join Twitter chats for your brand if you can, or host your own. So there are a few Twitter chats. I can't think of the names at the moment, but there are two that I really love for just social media managers. One I usually join on Tuesday mornings. I didn't join today though. But if your brand is, a larger brand that has a good following, host your own Twitter chat, have different topics, do it once a week. And it's just a great way to really bring in your customers and potential customers and then have them talk about a topic that's related to your brand. So,
well, that's actually great advice. I'm not currently doing a Twitter chat, so maybe I'll experiment with that.
yeah.
And then, so let's back up. So you're a small business owner, you're an entrepreneur, or maybe you're a social media manager at a large organization. And up until now, your business online, socially speaking, has been anemic or non-existent. What are the first steps that you think that these companies or entrepreneurs need to start doing to establish that presence?
So the first thing you need to do is figure out which platforms you
Oh, I
want
thought you were going to
on.
say the first thing is to hire you.
Oh, well, then you can do
That
that.
goes without saying.
You definitely need to figure out which platforms you want to be on. I know a lot of business owners, they say, okay, I want to be on everything. I want to be on Facebook. I want to be on TikTok and Snapchat. But if your target audience isn't there, then there's no need to be on those platforms. So figure out where you want to be, where your target audience is. And then, of course, you want to make sure that you have a strategy. Who are you speaking to? What kind of content do they like? What do they want to see? Do they prefer longer form content? Do they prefer videos? Think about those types of things whenever you're creating your strategy.
That's a nice segue to BJ Bailey's question here about what third-party tools you recommend for those very analytics that you're talking about.
Definitely. So each platform actually has analytics in the back end. So you can, of course, go there and get them. But if you're using a tool to actually schedule your content, like Sprout Social, I love Sprout Social. You can obviously use their
Social,
analytics
all
tool.
one word or two?
Sprout is 2 words, Sprout Social. Okay. So I absolutely love Sprout Social. And then another tool that I love for planning out like my Instagram content is Planoly, and Planoly is based here in Austin, and they have analytics built into their platform as well. So always have to shout out Planoly. I love them.
Exactly. We have some friends that are over there, don't we?
Yes.
Well, okay, excellent. So you started talking about analytics and knowing where the people would be and which ones to reach.
Right.
So again, for those social media managers that are trying to get this up and off the ground, what would the next step be? So they've identified where they exist. They identify the segment they're going after. What now?
So I did mention the strategy. So making sure that you have a strategy and then setting a schedule to post. So knowing when you're going to post. Are you going to post Mondays at 8 a.m. Central? Are you going to post Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern?
What about
Making sure
those
you know
people?
that.
What about those people that are lazy and they post just when it happens or on a Sunday afternoon? I mean, I'm one of those people. I'm guilty of that. How bad is that? Anything I can do to save myself from myself?
Yeah, you can definitely post, in real time. But if you're definitely trying to be strategic, look and see when your audience is online. If your audience is online at 5:30 p.m. on a Wednesday, that's when you should post. Sunday is actually the day that has the least engagement on social media. Makes sense. It's a weekend. People are kind of getting ready for the week. So if you have something important to post it during the week, and then look at your analytics and see when your audience is online. So then this way you're not just speaking to no one.
Right. So you've scheduled it. You got that content that's out there. You talked about the three things: educate, entertain, and inform. But if they're just not good at it, how do they work with a third-party provider like yourself or someone at the Content Plug?
So you should definitely, reach out to a social media manager and, let them know what your goals are. What's your business? What are you trying to accomplish? And how can social media help? And then, the social media manager that you hire should be able to put together a strategy that will allow your business to grow on social media and off social media. And I see a lot of people who are always like, I want a bunch of followers, and followers are great, but followers don't always, turn into dollars. So you always want to make sure you're thinking about that as well. So if you
Let me ask you on that, because this is debated all the time. Would you rather have a million followers or 1,000 super fans?
1,000 super fans, because I could go buy 1 million followers today. So
very good.
There's nothing to it. I can go on a website and buy followers right now, but they're not going to purchase from you. They're not going to engage with you. And consumers are smart. They know that the followers are fake, because once you still get the same amount of likes and engagement you were getting before, it's not going to help you at the end of the day.
Got it. And then just very briefly, because we're already here almost at 20 minutes, talk very briefly about the difference in cohorts of what you're already telling age-wise. People in their 20s, teens, people in their 30s, 40s. Everybody is at a different stage in life. What general strategy do you have for thinking about that in creating content?
I definitely think about that when I'm trying to figure out where audiences are. So I have one client where their audience is really big on Facebook, and some of them are on Instagram, but it's mainly Facebook. Obviously, it's an older audience, but I'm definitely learning with each client that it's different. I used to be that person that would say, oh, no one, in this age group is really on Facebook. Millennials are still on Facebook, maybe not as much as Instagram, but they're still there. So definitely don't just write off one age group saying, oh, they're not on that platform. Really look at your analytics, because you would be surprised.
Yeah. So for folks that are watching this, especially those viewers on LinkedIn that are in business, or perhaps they're watching us on another platform and they're thinking about a business or hiring an expert, give me ballparks. What do I expect in terms of a budget or a rhythm, in terms of time spent with this person, money spent with this social media manager? What can they expect? What does that look like?
It definitely varies depending on number of hours a month, or if you're, doing or how many platforms that you're managing. So I know some social media managers that could, manage your Instagram for, let's say, $500 a month. But there are some people who may go up and do 1,000, 2,000. And then if you have a full suite of services, if you're with a larger agency, it could be $4,000 a month. So that's the one thing about social media. It definitely varies depending on who you're working with, how many channels you're managing, and then what you expect to do with those channels. So, are you helping your client go live every week? Are you just posting for them? Are you responding to comments? There's definitely different things that you can check off. And, I've worked with some clients before who, they just want me to help them content, give it to them, and they post it. I don't prefer to do that, but, maybe that's how, they want to, run their social. So you definitely have to make sure that you're speaking with your client and just kind of making sure that you are checking off all the boxes and everything that they want.
Yeah. Well, so let's talk now about what we were talking about a little bit in the green room, which is, what are the topics to avoid? So the question was in this conversation, and I said, don't avoid anything. Everything's on the table. But quite literally in social media, everything is on the table. And, they say the 3 topics they didn't allow prisoners to talk about because it always started fights in the cafeteria, which is sex, politics and religion. When
Mhm.
those topics come up, or other topics that cause controversy among followers or brands themselves, what advice do you have? Do you engage it directly? Do you
Mhm.
avoid it? Do you have a strategy for promoting your values?
Mhm.
Tell me. So for
It's
those that are out there either managing their own accounts or have
Mhm.
someone that helps them do that.
It's a case by case basis. As someone who has, been right on the front lines when it comes to responding to reviews, when, maybe you have a customer who's cursing at you or who's threatening to sue you, every single situation is different. And you really just kind of have to gauge it by how the person is acting, what's the climate, what's going on at the moment. I know that's like not the best, and that's not the answer that everyone wants to hear, but you really just kind of have to sit back for a second. I think a lot of social media managers, they see the negative mention on the phone and they immediately want to go and respond. It's just sit back for 30 seconds, think about what you really want to say. I like to write responses in like a note, like, the Notes app on my Mac, and write out what I want to say. And I even try to write it with a smile, which I
A
got caught
smile
doing
on
that.
your face or an
I got
emoji?
caught doing that on camera with a client one time. And she was like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm writing this response, but I'm trying to put a smile on my face so that I don't come off as angry in the response." Because the one thing you do not want to do is to start a back and forth with, someone who's upset with you. And so I write the response out, read it a couple times, and then I send it. But sometimes, there's trolls, there are people who are just trying to, fight with you. There's a lot of things on the internet that you can just ignore. There's no reason to go back and forth. But sometimes, you can respond publicly. You can take the conversation offline. There's numerous things you can do, but each situation is different.
Yeah. Well, that is great advice, because they are indeed, everything's different. One
Yeah.
rule of thumb that I was given that I'll be curious your thoughts are, which is especially on Twitter where there's so much engagement back and forth, that if you identify a Twitter follower with, say, less than 30 followers or 40
Mhm.
followers, odds are they're either never on Twitter or they're a
Right.
bot or they're
Right.
a troll. Any
Mhm.
advice on certain profiles to just absolutely ignore?
Oh, people like that I ignore. If they have a username with a bunch of numbers and letters, so they didn't even bother to like brand their username, I would just ignore them. I see those, and I see people arguing with bots, and I don't argue with people online. I don't have the time, and I'm definitely
Arguing
not
with
going
a
to argue
bot
with a
is
bot.
like arguing with your 13-year-old kid. It's just
Literally,
never
it's just
going to work.
right. And they're going to say something and try to get under your skin, and then 30 minutes later, you're sitting there like, why am I arguing with someone who does not even have a profile photo? Like, really, who cares? So I
That
would just ignore it.
That's another great piece of advice this afternoon.
Right.
Well, we're going to wrap up here because we've
Mhm.
gone over 20 minutes. What did I not ask you? What's next for you in your life, your profession, the goals? How can people follow you? Take it anywhere you want.
Definitely. So I am in the process of growing my team. I can't even believe. I mean, I knew that one day I would be, in this place where I'm running my own business and, I have a team, but I'm definitely in the process of growing my team and definitely looking forward to taking on new clients later on this winter. But I've learned so much in the past few months being an entrepreneur, of just saying or just understanding what to say yes to, what to say no to, really having some challenging, conversations with myself a lot of times, like, should I do this? Should I not do this? Trying to have a sleep schedule, especially now during COVID. But I've learned a lot, and it's definitely not easy. It's everything that everyone always says. They say, entrepreneurship is difficult and you're never going to know everything. And I really wish that I would have started this journey a year ago, I would be so much further along. So if you were really thinking, if I should leave my job or if I should start a business, do it. There's no perfect time in the present. So
Yeah.
just do it.
I say
Be
not
smart,
only
though.
do it, but I also add the qualifier, but don't necessarily quit your day job if you can't pay your rent.
That's why I say be smart. Yeah, that's one thing. I'm glad you mentioned that. I did not just jump out one day and say, "Oh, I'm just going to quit my job. I'm just going to leave, my role." I definitely had a plan, and I kind of moved my plan up, a lot. I originally planned to do this next year, but I was at a point where I said, "Okay, I can pay my bills. I can afford insurance. I'm not going to go hungry, so I think I can do this." And I have money saved, so that's always important. So
Well, you certainly have figured this out at least well enough to convince me that you've got it all together, which as an
yeah,
entrepreneur, fake it till you make it is
there you
half of what
go.
you're doing, instilling in people the confidence that you believe you can do it. And then
Right.
that gives you time, space, and resources to actually go out and do it.
Mhm.
Um, Well, let's see. Actually, we got one more
Hi, Robert.
comment that came back here. Oh, well, hello, Robert.
Yes.
So, well, you got a shout out from the crowd. And
Mhm.
well, let's see if Flossie's still there. Oh, yep. Can you see Flossie?
Yes.
Flossie sat there very calmly, very coolly. She's like my sidekick, like they have on the Tonight Show and others. She's there, but to this date, she has actually never added any comments of value. Now, she has slept a lot. She has barked some, but that's about it. So
there you go.
Anyway, well, this has been a thrill. I've looked forward to this conversation for a long time.
Yes.
We're going to, again, keep this on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. And on the LinkedIn, I'll also try to get around to doing a post of the blog itself. Oh, and last thing about LinkedIn, you told me about LinkedIn stories. How do you think it's going for LinkedIn, and what advice do you have for people there? Because we didn't talk about that.
I would definitely take advantage of LinkedIn stories. Like we said earlier, whenever a platform launches something new, you should on it. There's at LinkedIn headquarters that has to show like, hey, this is working. So make sure that you jump on it. And you definitely don't have to share the same thing in your LinkedIn story that you're sharing on Instagram. Obviously, it's tailored to a more professional audience. So, talk about, what you're doing at your job, talk about upcoming events, upcoming interviews, things that you have that you really want your professional audience to know. But I would definitely take advantage of LinkedIn stories.
Okay, well, I'll keep doing it. I did one today, in fact, promoting the fact that I'm talking to you. Well, excellent. All right, Alexis, thank you for joining us today on Catalyst Talks, and I look forward to seeing you in person in the future.
One day, yes. See you soon.
Take care.